on this wonderful Sunday morning. We're starting at Sirondella in Thornybush Game Reserve, and we've got a few ellies in picture. My name is Johan Herbst. I am the owner of this voice, and I'm very excited to be presenting to you today. Just a quick reminder that this is a live and interactive experience, so we love to hear from you. So send your comments or questions through on our app or website. The details will be displayed on the screen below. So we've got a male in picture over here. Don't think I need to point out how I know that, but there is an appendage over there which you might see if you look closely. So this is probably a bachelor herd. So often you'll find that younger males tend to congregate together in bachelor herds, because once they become teenagers, once they get over a certain age, normally around 13 years of age, they get kicked out of the herd, the matriarchy. So this is nature's way of ensuring that there's a good genetic mix, so that there's not a lot of inbreeding, so the males don't find their sisters attractive. So you'll find often on the show that we see elephants a lot, and this is no coincidence, because elephants are extremely water dependent, so they can go for a few days without drinking water, but if they can avoid it, they will avoid not drinking water. So they're very much dependent on water for drinking, to sustain themselves, and to cool themselves off. And they also like to play in the water, and also they like to get their skin layered with some thick mud in order to protect their skin against the sun, the harmful UV radiation, and then also it acts as a sort of an exfoliating, almost like a face mask for pests, and so ticks and that tend to stick to their skin. See how the elephant uses its trunk to drink water. So it can suck up to about 6 liters at a time into its trunk, and then it pours it down into its mouth. A very peaceful morning in Thornybush Game Reserve, which is close to Hoedspruit. So it's a lovely 23 degrees Celsius there, and partly sunny there in Hoedspruit at the moment. So the scientific name for elephants or the African elephant is Loxodonta africana. And so loxodonta, loxo meaning slanting, and then in Greek, and then donta referring to the teeth, like dentition or dentist. So the name Loxodonta refers to the slanting teeth, because the tusks are actually just modified teeth and so they've got the slanting tusks, and that's where the name Loxodonta comes from. And then Africana because this particular species is found in Africa. So Shayna RD says, "Good morning, Johan. Wonderful to have you as our host today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today, Shayna. I hope we have an exciting show today. I think it's already really exciting to have these elephants on the show, and a little bit of an interspecies interaction over there with the blacksmith lapwing, that little bird on the edge of the water, and the elephant just passing by. So we've got an elephant right in front of the camera, wants to take up all the spotlight today. And then what's also quite interesting is that if you look at the ear of this Loxodonta africana, you'll see that the ear is almost shaped like the continent of Africa. Some people say that is also quite unique about the African elephants. So Asian elephants, they have smaller ears than your African elephant. See this Ellie over here has obviously detected the camera and is having a lot of fun being at the center of attention today. You can see that the elephant's got very thick eyelashes, and that's to protect the eyeballs when they are feeding on the acacia trees. So lots of thorns on those acacias, lots of spikes, and so those eyelashes will protect them while they have their heads stuck in an acacia tree. So Jenny is asking, is it true that the wearing down of elephant teeth is what gives them a hard time in their later years? And that is absolutely correct, Jenny. So what happens is, sorry, I can't. This elephant, you look at the tusk of it's absolutely messing this camera up completely. So I guess this is the risk of putting up cameras at waterholes. They're never completely safe, as invariably you'd have to attach the camera to a tree. As you can see in the case of this camera over here, it looks like it's attached to a tree with some sort of battery pack over there. And this elephant obviously does not want to be filmed today or have his family filmed. Obviously we didn't sign the Papier Act for this particular herd of elephants. Okay, no, there we go. Maybe we will be able to see the family after all. Oh, there we go. There's a picture of the lodge. It looks like this elephant wants to be the cameraman today. Sorry, zoomies. We have a new cameraman in charge. This is crazy. I've never seen this happen on the show before. That's so interesting. Elephants have got incredible sense of smell, and maybe they can detect the human scent on this camera, and they're just not so keen on having this camera at this waterhole. And oftentimes they do just like to mess around with, they like to play around. Who knows why they actually do it, but oftentimes on the reserves that I've worked at, elephants like to push over poles, and they like to push over fences. Often they push over fences to get inside a property so that they can eat the nice gardens of the people who own the property. And this is often quite an issue where elephants, they get into villages. Sorry, it's difficult to concentrate with this elephant just having a whale of a time with this camera over here. I hope it's not too expensive to fix. Okay. Okay, well, I think this elephant definitely doesn't want us to view its magnificent family, so I guess we'll head over on to Rosie's pan. And we've got some more elephants in picture. These beautiful creatures, magnificent creatures. This one in front of you is just flapping its ears, trying to fly. So the reason they actually flap their ears is to cool themselves off, because they have a lot of blood that passes through their ears. So they say all the blood in their bodies passes through their ears in a cycle of 20 minutes. And so you can see the skin on their ears is the thinnest than on any other part of their body. So when they're flapping their ears like this, they're actually cooling off all the capillaries, all the veins and arteries in their ear, and then all that blood that becomes cooled down then travels to the rest of their body, and then this ends up cooling them down. So you'll see in the winter they don't flap their ears as much as in the summer, for the obvious reason being that it's not as hot. And then you'll see on very cold winter mornings, elephants will keep their ears quite close to their bodies so that they can trap a layer of air under or between the ear and the body, and keep that layer of air warm to warm up their ears and therefore the rest of their bodies. So Janice is asking how much water do elephants drink every day? So typically elephants can drink up to 200 liters of water on average, but it's all dependent on how much water they have access to, and also how big the elephant is. Obviously smaller elephants require a lot less water, but on average your average adult would typically drink about 200 liters of water if they can, and also dependent on how hot it is. So if they are also more active, they'd have to drink more water. And then the more they eat, the more they have to digest, and water is a very important part in metabolizing their food and in digesting their food. So Witness is asking what's being done to protect elephants from being poached. And so, thankfully, touch wood, in South Africa, poaching, or Southern Africa at least, from what I know, is poaching for ivory, for elephant tusks, is not as big as it is in East Africa and Central Africa. There's a much bigger issue with regards to ivory poaching over there. But there are anti-poaching units on each of these reserves that we see in our Africam cameras, and so these anti-poaching units will put all sorts of measures in place and do regular patrols in order to protect these beautiful elephants. And there's all sorts of anti-poaching techniques used nowadays. Some people are starting to use drones more regularly to patrol areas, cover greater distances in a shorter amount of time. But that also comes with its own challenges and logistical challenges in that. And also operational costs that can work out quite expensive. So to go back to your question, Jenny, you were asking, is it true that the wearing down of elephant teeth is what gives them a hard time in their later years? And yes, that is true. So elephants, they get 6 sets of teeth in their lifetime, and during each decade their teeth wears down. And so when the last set of teeth grows out and it wears down, they can't eat anymore, so they end up dying of starvation, which is quite a grim way to go, but it is a natural way. And so basically those elephants, they can't wear down, or they can't grind down all that vegetation, that plant material that they eat, and so they end up basically starving. So often you'll find that elephant carcasses are found close to waterholes, where they will end up going when they can't end up eating anymore, so they just drink, and they try and find the soft vegetation close to the waterhole. And this is often where you'll find what people call elephant graveyards. Alright, let's have a look at what's happening at Old Donyo in Kenya. Okay, we've got a beautiful giraffe in picture over here with a oxpecker, it seems, on its neck. So no, that's not a growth on the giraffe's neck, it is a bird, probably a red-billed oxpecker that's picking away at all the harmful parasites on the giraffe's body, so all the ticks in that. And then there's something else in picture over here. I want you to tell me what else you see in picture. They're a bit camouflaged. Almost look like big boulders in the background. A beautiful female giraffe, it seems. Yep, it looks like a female giraffe. It's got it doesn't have very prominent ossicones, those growths on the top of its head. So the very thick and big ossicones are normally found on the male giraffes. And for those of you who watch the show regularly, I'm sure you know that those ossicones are not actually horns, but they are an extension of their skulls. So when a giraffe is born, those ossicones are actually made of cartilage, and then as they grow older, they ossify, so they become bone. They become hardened and they become bone. So there is what I was referring to. Thank you, Zoomy, that is controlling the camera over here. So there's a beautiful elephant. Looks like there's two over there, and they're just busy. Looks like they've had a nice wallow in the little waterhole in front. And perhaps there's a little waterhole over there. So Janice, to answer your question, they are elephant. So Zoomy zoomed in nicely there for us to see. And Anthony, you correctly said that it is an elephant in the background. Shayna is asking, why do the top of the elephant's ears fold over? And so the reason for this is that their ears grow continuously throughout their lives, much like human ears, but ours grow at a significantly slower rate than an elephant's. And so basically, as the elephant's ears grow, because of gravity, they end up drooping backwards. So, and that's also a nice way to determine the age of the elephant, or to guesstimate the age of an elephant, is to be looking at to look at the folds of an elephant's ear. So the deeper the folds, the older the elephant. So Darkmane Lover is asking, how do I feel about the passing of the magnificent Super Tusker 1 ton? And I'm incredibly sad. It is truly tragic to lose such a magnificent Super Tusker. And unfortunately there aren't that many left in the wild. So losing a beautiful elephant like that. And for those of you who don't know, 1 ton was the Super Tusker. So Super Tuskers are elephants that have tusks weighing over 45 kilograms or over 100 pounds each. And so basically they have these long tusks that end up sweeping the ground. They're so long. And so unfortunately on the 5th of July there was, this particular elephant bull, 1 ton, passed away peacefully in the Chulu Hills. He died of old age. So as I mentioned earlier, elephants, they end up dying because their teeth, the last set of teeth that they get, ends up wearing down to the gums, and then they can't basically process any food because they can't chew the food and digest the food properly, so they end up dying. So very, very tragic news, and hopefully his genes will be carried on with the rest of the elephants in Old Donyo, or around Old Donyo in the Chulu Hills. So as I mentioned, there are fewer than 50 of these Super Tuskers left on the entire planet. So it's very, very sad indeed. And hopefully with the anti-poaching efforts, we'll be able to have more and more of these Super Tuskers.
Hi, I'm Cedric Dold, Wild Earth presenter and private guide. I'd love you to join me on safari. In September, I'll be at Valgevonden for a beautiful spring safari. And in November, I'll be tracking Wild Earth's famous leopards here in the Sabi Sands. Come and share the wildlife, the stories, and the adventure with me. Book now and let's go on safari.
We're going to be witnessing the relocation of a female cheetah that was born right here in Valgevonden Game Reserve. She's been moved to Lapalala Wilderness.
Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together. We know that adverts pay our bills, but you don't necessarily like them. So, this is a fantastic way to stop being interrupted. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. 24/7, ad-free, live and on demand. No pesky commercials, no rude interruptions, just wild Africa exactly as it unfolds. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
The giraffe is able to detect whether the female is ready to mate by detecting the estrogen levels in the urine. So there's a lot of information that these animals can pick up from dung and urine, because all the hormones and the toxins and that get expelled through the urine and through the excrement, through the feces. And so there's actually a lot of research being done in on dung, elephant dung and the dung of lots of different animals, because this is a non-invasive way of basically monitoring animals and their stress levels and that, because you don't have to dart the animal in order to then draw blood samples and that. You can just look at the feces, and then you can almost you can detect which particular individual the feces belongs to, and then you can also look at the different hormone levels, the stress levels. If there's lots of cortisol in their urine or feces, then that's also very useful information. And this also helps with the different management teams, the reserve management teams, to manage the animals better. So this giraffe over here is doing a downward dog, a yoga pose, just doing its morning yoga routine for us. So this giraffe, while it's drinking water, is very, very vulnerable. Vulnerable to predators and that. And there we've got a beautiful elephant in HD. Just blows my mind that we're able to see this live. This is happening in Kenya right now. These magnificent creatures just flaunting their stuff for us. This particular elephant doesn't look too impressed that it's having to stare into this giraffe's bum. You can see on the giraffe's inner leg, inner thigh, it's got lots of ticks. Those black dots in that are ticks that tend to accumulate over there. So I had a question from Spas Yankov earlier from Bulgaria. So Spas is asking, speaking of radiation, how sensitive is the elephant's skin to outer factors? Is there any scientific research done on that? So I'm not aware of any particular scientific research that's being done on it at the moment, but yeah, that would be quite interesting to find out. But what I do know is that elephants have got incredibly thick skin throughout most of their bodies except for their ears. And basically the elephant's skin is very tough. It's at some places about 6 centimeters thick on the thickest places. And so you can imagine it's very thick, impenetrable skin, and that's why elephants are able to feed on very rough vegetation with lots of thorns and spikes, and they're able to basically create pathways through very thick vegetation. These branches scratching them, or the thorns scratching them, doesn't really do much damage to them, whereas it would cause a lot of damage to us, to our very thin and quite sensitive skins. So with regards to UV radiation, I think, well, it's believed that elephants, they cover their skin with a layer of mud so that it acts like a sort of sunscreen. And so I imagine they don't have very, very sensitive skins towards radiation or to UV rays, but I think it would be a lot tougher than ours, but still UV can cause a lot of damage to the DNA of the animal. And that's actually why, interestingly enough, when you spend the day in the sun, if you spend the day tanning in the sun, you feel very tired even though you haven't really, done much. And that's because your body is working hard to repair all the DNA that the sun or the UV radiation has damaged. So literally the UV radiation can damage your DNA and cause mutations. So it's important, obviously, to get sun, but not to spend too much time in the sun. So please do keep those questions and comments coming. Remember to contact us on any of the social media platforms, or on our app or website, or on YouTube. So sometimes you'll see elephants, they stand still without flapping their ears or wagging their tails, and sometimes they're just listening. It looks like this particular bull on the left is just busy relaxing its trunk on its tusk. Maybe it's overexerted its trunk for the day. And so often when elephants are standing completely still, they're listening, so they can actually pick up vibrations, infrasonic sound that's less than 20 hertz, that humans cannot hear with the unaided ear. And so what they're doing is they're listening out. They're listening to any small vibrations that they can detect, any seismic movements. So it's actually quite incredible. So the elephants are great listeners. Something that I think many humans lack nowadays, unfortunately. We aren't very good listeners. We just love to give our opinions and not listen. And there's a quote that goes, "We have one mouth and two ears," and that's why we should listen twice as much as we talk. Looks like this giraffe is quite skittish. So this giraffe knows the pecking order of this waterhole, knows that the elephants are in charge, but desperately just wants a little drink of water without being chased away. So Brandon is asking, how old do I think these elephants are? And that's a good question. I mean, basically, as I was mentioning earlier, you can look at the ears to gauge how old an elephant is, and you can also look at, of course, the tusks. The longer the tusks, the older they are, typically, and also the size of an elephant. And then also, if you look on the ridge of their backs, if the ridge is forming a sort of like, if there's an indentation in the ridge, if it's starting to become a bit more indented, then the elephant is older. So basically their spines tend to warp as they get older. So I would say that these elephants in picture over here probably between 20 to 30 years old, or maybe 25 to 35. But I'm definitely not the best when it comes to gauging the elephant's age, but I do know that an elephant under a year old, they can fit underneath a fully grown female elephant, or fit underneath the mother, underneath the stomach. So that's how you can tell that they're under a year old. So Anthony says, I love how the big elephant tusks is curving inward. And it is beautiful indeed. And so the genetics would determine how the tusks grow. So sometimes there are mutations which make the elephant tusks grow a bit more inwards than straight. So it is quite interesting that this particular elephant has these inward growing tusks. So Patty is asking, what birds are those? And so we've seen some oxpeckers on the giraffes. So I don't see any other birds right now. You also have some swallows or swifts there in the background. It's quite difficult to identify them. But it's not quite nice that these elephants are now allowing these giraffes to have a little drink. Oh, I spoke too soon. No. We have this male who does not want to share the water. He said, alright guys, party's over, get out of here. Scarlett says the giraffes are really giving us a show. Well, they were until this this bully in front here decided to chase them away. So White Boy is asking if the giraffe is the tallest animal. So they are the tallest land animals, yes. So they can reach over 6 meters tall. But they are not, I think technically speaking, because you have your blue whale, which is a much larger animal, but I guess, you know, they're not really tall because they, you know, not upright. So yes, but definitely in terms of land animals, the giraffe is the tallest. And lots happening over here at the waterhole. Lots of interspecies interaction. So you have what you call interspecies competition and intra-specific competition. So interspecific and intraspecific. So inter refers to competition between different species, and then intra refers to competition within a certain species. So obviously this is interspecific competition because you have the elephants and the giraffe competing for the same resource over here. And generally the elephants can be quite tolerant, but as you can see, if they didn't want these giraffe here at all, they would have chased them away long ago. But they seem quite relaxed with them, with the exception of the one elephant bull who seems to not want to share in the fun. So Tony is asking, have I ever been to Kenya before? And unfortunately not, and it is a place I would absolutely love to visit. Hopefully at one stage I'd be able to go there. For a South African, it's quite expensive to travel to, and also the lodges are a bit out of budget for most South Africans because the rand is unfortunately not very strong, so it doesn't take us as far as the dollar or the euro or or some other currency would, or the pound for example. But definitely if you ever have the opportunity to visit Kenya, I would not hesitate. I was actually watching a program the other evening with my wife, with Bear Grylls, where he takes an actor, Joseph Gordon-Hewitt, to Kenya, and they basically try and survive for 48 hours in the savannah in Kenya, and just the scenes are magnificent. The drone footage that they get is just breathtaking stuff. Absolutely phenomenal. Definitely very wild out there. on the game reserves, and yeah, definitely a place that one should visit at least once in your lifetime. So Sally is asking what my favorite animal is, and that's a tough one. I've got so many favorites. It's hard to pin down one. And so Sally says hers is definitely the giraffe. I do love giraffe, although I must say I probably would go. I do love honey badgers. I find them incredible, just how resilient they are and how fearless they are. I definitely have lots of respect for honey badgers. I mean, they're able to be stung by hundreds of bees, and they're able to withstand, you know, some of the most dangerous, life-threatening snake bites from very venomous snakes like cobras, and they just have a little nap and then they wake up again and kill the snake. You know, they're just unbelievably resilient and strong and tough. And there was some, I believe, a military vehicle in South Africa that was named the ratel. So ratel is an Afrikaans name for a honey badger, and it was named this because of how indestructible it was. So just unbelievable how tough the honey badgers are. We had some guinea fowl there in picture. Perhaps that was the bird that Patty was referring to earlier. And also some of my favorite, I also used to love cheetahs. I mean, I still do love cheetahs, but they were on one of my favorite lists, or they were top of my favorite list when I was a kid. And I also used to love great white sharks. I used to just think they're the most incredible apex predators, and yeah, just unbelievably strong and powerful. But yeah, it's very difficult to say. So Candice is saying honey badgers are awesome, and she's asking, did I see the video of the honey badger and elephant? So I think I might know what you're referring to. I have seen quite a few videos of honey badgers chasing away elephants, and actually now I think it does ring a bell. I think the one you're referring to is where the elephant kicks the honey badger, and the honey badger just shakes it off and carries on chasing the elephant. So it just goes to show you how tough these beautiful honey badgers are. So Anthony is asking, what would happen if an African elephant would meet an Asian elephant? Would they fight? And that's quite an interesting question. I think they would, depending on the situation. Maybe if they were in an enclosed area and there wasn't much resources for both of them, then they might fight. But the thing is, elephants aren't territorial. They do try and establish dominance, though. They in order to get mating rights, in order to mate with females. So yeah, that is an interesting question, and I guess one that we'll never know unless someone with crazy amounts of money decides to put the two together and see what happens, but I'm not too sure what would happen there. Beautiful shot of these helmeted guinea fowl in picture over here. They definitely look almost prehistoric. Very beautiful, colourful birds, the guinea fowl. So in Kenya, in certain parts, you also get the vulturine guinea fowl, which I think is one of the coolest looking birds. You should give that a Google and look what comes up. Almost looks like a AI generated image. There's also a cassowary, which you find in Australia. So they look like guinea fowls on steroids, but also, you know, it almost looks like proof that dinosaurs did exist. And just the way they look is just so prehistoric looking. And fantastic, we've got a zebra in picture who's brave enough to stand up to the elephants and sneak a drink of water. So Spas Yankov is asking, do you find honey badgers in Oldonyo, and do you see cheetahs at Oldonyo? So yes, there are cheetahs and honey badgers at Oldonyo. So the honey badger has quite a vast range in Africa. So they're found throughout sub-Saharan Africa. I think they struggle in the Sahara. They would struggle in the Sahara Desert, but I think they are found on the fringes of the Sahara Desert. And they're also found in parts of the Middle East and also in India. So honey badgers. Oh wow, we've got a warthog in picture. A couple of, wow, it's really becoming quite the party over here. And I just love how these warthog, they kneel down as if they're praying, like when they're feeding or drinking water, because they've got such short, stocky necks that they're not able to basically eat the vegetation on the ground. So their necks aren't long enough. So they have to bend their front legs in order to get closer to the ground. So Tono is asking, did 1 ton die of old age? And yes, unfortunately, 1 ton did die very peacefully, I believe, in the Chulu Hills of Kenya. So around this area where he was frequently seen. So this particular warthog seems unfazed. Perhaps a more experienced, looks like the older warthog, whereas the younger ones are a bit more skittish, a bit more cautious. And you can see they've got these little cute grey beards. So with the young ones, they don't have fully developed tusks yet, the young warthogs. So it's believed that these white tufts on the side of their faces supposedly mimic the dangerous tusks of the warthog. So it's quite nice to see up close. I just think they're absolutely beautiful. They unfortunately are on the list of the ugly 5, along with the spotted hyena, vulture, marabou stork and blue wildebeest. But I think they are beautiful and so entertaining to watch. They're just so animated in whatever they do. Trying to figure out what that is in the background there that's chilling there by the tree. It almost looks like an eland. You can see these warthog are now just standing still, listening. Oh, this sounds like a alarm call of sorts. Okay, so I see what I was referring to earlier. It looks like a gemsbok or an oryx. So a beautiful antelope with long, straight, and very sharp horns. Very resilient creatures as well, very resilient animals. They're able to survive in the Namib Desert of Namibia. And they've got very special adaptations to retain as much water as possible. And so they can go for long periods without drinking water. So the particular oryx that you find over here at Aldonio are fringe-eared oryx. So beautiful oryx indeed. So now we've had zebra over here, we've had elephants, we've had warthog, we've had the fringe-eared oryx, we've had guinea fowl, we've had some swallows. So it's been a real entertaining day over here, or hour at Aldonio's waterhole. So please do keep those questions and comments coming. Remember, it is interactive, so I'll gladly answer your questions if I'm able to. I don't know everything, and I think that's great, because the more questions there are, the more I can research things, especially things that I don't know. So it would be very short-sighted and arrogant to think that you know everything about the bush. So we're always learning. There's always new fascinating things happening in the bush, new discoveries, and I guess we'll never know exactly why everything happens in the bush. I mean, we can only come up with different theories as to why animals behave certain ways, or why they have certain patterns, or why they have certain social structures. So lots of interesting questions, which gets the curiosity piqued and spiked, and that is what we want. We want to forever be curious. We never want to just assume that we know everything. So Bobby is asking what the difference is between the gemsbok and the fringe-eared oryx. So besides their distribution being quite different, the fringe-eared oryx that you find here in East Africa at Aldonio, they've got these tufts, these black tufts on the tips of their ears. So quite distinct black tufts. But other than that, they look very similar. So the fringe-eared oryx is also quite small compared to the gemsbok. So the gemsbok are the bigger of the two species. So I've got a comment here from Camille saying the patterns on these giraffes are incredible, and they absolutely are. It's quite interesting, the different... Oh, we've got some earlantern picture as well. So lots and lots of different species today at the Aldonio's waterhole. Some beautiful earlant in the background there. Also incredibly resilient antelope. They're also able to survive in very harsh and dry conditions like the Namib Desert. So Sandy is commenting, so many elephants are coming to join the party. It's absolutely becoming a big jewel, as we would say in South Africa. Big party. I think everyone's celebrating the Springboks win last night against Scotland. It's a very hard fought and well deserved win, although it was a bit close, too close for comfort at times, but luckily for the South Africans, for us, we managed to pull it off. A phenomenal running rugby last night. So Connor's asking, do you get leopards in Kenya? And absolutely you do. I think the only place in Africa... Ooh, there we go, there's an angry elephant there. Of course there's the different dynamics as you find in any family. A bit of banter, a bit of fighting between brothers and sisters, or between brothers, a bit of sibling rivalry. So yes, absolutely, Con, you find leopard all over Africa, besides in the Sahara Desert itself, and I think they're also excluded from the Namib Desert, but I mean they also are incredibly I want to say resilient again, but they're so adaptable. They are able to survive in all sorts of climates and extremes. I mean, if you think of like the snow leopard that you find in the Himalayan mountains, or even find some leopard in the Cape leopard in the Western Cape, in the mountainous regions. Just in very high altitudes you can find them, and they're able to eat a range of different things. They're very opportunistic, so they feed on anything they can sort of lay their paws on. They can feed on little birds, they can catch them, on hares, rabbits, even on some insects if they can catch them. So Janice is asking what my favorite time of year is in the bush. and that's any time of the year, because I just love to be in the bush. But honestly, it's a difficult question to answer, because every season is great for different reasons. The winter is lovely because there aren't as many mosquitoes and insects that are trying to suck your blood. But then again, winter it's also great because the sightings are a lot better. You get to see a lot more predators because they're not able to hide as easily in the thick bush. But yeah, I also love the springtime is wonderful as well, and the summer. I think the springtime is beautiful when all the flowers are in blossom, and when you have your migrant bird species, your Eurasian migrants or your inter-African migrants that come back to South Africa or Southern Africa in the summer, and it's lovely to hear the birds when they come back, because then it's that summer is near, or that it's springtime when you hear, for example, the woodland kingfisher in the Lowveld. Then that winter is officially over. So yeah, different seasons for different reasons. But definitely any time in the bush is well spent. Okay, let's see what's happening at Tortillas. Wow, so we've got some Egyptian geese, some ostriches in picture, and some saddle-billed storks. A nice bird party over here. And funny enough, my wife was actually showing me a video of a male giraffe that was using its courtship display to attract a female. And if you've never seen that, please do yourself a favor and Google ostrich courtship display. Very, very entertaining indeed. They swing their necks from side to side, and they lift their wings up and shake their bodies like Shakira at the World Cup. And also, when the male ostriches are ready to mate, their legs, their shins, and parts of their neck start to go like this pinkish color, and then that's when you know that the males are ready to mate. I'm sorry, I might have said giraffe, but I meant ostriches when they are ready to mate. So I see we've also got a hammerkop in picture over here, just to the left of our screens. They also have a very interesting call. They sound like a old lady busy laughing. Beautiful scenery this can see it's much different to the vegetation and the scenes at Aldonio. A bit more like wetland environment, like a sort of swampy environment. You can also see a terrapin just in front of the Egyptian geese over there. It's busy basking in the sun. Terrapins are also reptiles like crocodiles, so they also are reliant on their external temperature to warm up their blood. So they're not very good at regulating their own body temperature like many mammals are. So they rely on spending lots of their time basking in the sun when it's cold, and then also they like to be in areas where there's a warm external environment. So my apologies, I believe I said saddle-billed storks. I meant spoonbills, African spoonbills. My apologies, I do make mistakes. I am only human. Thank you for pointing that out, Cornelia. So you can see the spoonbill to the left over there. Very interesting bill or beak. They're filter feeders, so they use their beaks to filter out any tiny microorganisms in the water, and they feed on those microorganisms. So these Thomson's gazelle, they're quite common in East Africa. We don't find them in Southern Africa, but they're affectionately known as Tommy in East Africa, or as the Tommy. So they're named after the Scottish explorer Joseph Thomson. So that's quite interesting. Beautiful scenes there in the background, absolutely stunning. Definitely need to book myself a trip to Kenya as soon as I can. A very peaceful waterhole this compared to the Old Donyo waterhole, where there's a lot of large animal activity happening over there. Very impressive set of horns this Tommy over here has. You can see this Tommy over here has heard something. Also sounded like there was an elephant trumpeting in the distance. You can see they're alert now. Obviously they're very vulnerable when they're drinking water, very susceptible to being caught by by predators, and that's why you'll typically find that predators, they love to hang out in wait and ambush at these water holes, wait till the antelope or whatever prey is at their most vulnerable, because they're not able to look behind them while they're drinking water. And that's why it's so important to have strength in numbers with a lot of these game. They rely heavily on other members staying hyper vigilant, looking out for any danger, any potential threats. So Sydney was asking, how do birds keep track of or remember their migration routes? So that's quite an interesting question, and I mean one that we know so little about. But birds, they are able to, some birds at least, they're able to detect
Some rivalries don't need explaining. They're felt. They're etched into history. The All Blacks, the Springboks, head to head in South Africa. Join us for 2 unforgettable tests, from the fiercest rivalry in sport to luxury safari, hosted by a Springbok legend. Rugby and Safari by Wild Earth Travel. The greatest rivalry, experienced the only way it should be.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
I'm hoping that he lets out a belting call soon.
We found a zebra here.
This young boy actually made this kill.
We know that adverts pay our bills, but you don't necessarily like them. So, this is a fantastic way to stop being interrupted. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. 24/7, ad-free, live and on demand. No pesky commercials, no rude interruptions, just wild Africa exactly as it unfolds. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
I've found while I was guiding that, often people want to see a kill. They want to see a predator take down their prey because it's very exciting and everything. But when it happens and they see the animal suffer, then they sort of change their minds. So it's actually happened when I was on a game drive. I saw a jackal. I saw a jackal take down a baby impala, and so the way that they hunt these baby impala is by tearing bits of flesh off of the impala while they're still alive. So they'll just bite off pieces of flesh from the flank or the rump, and then basically until the animal bleeds out and it becomes too tired to carry on running, and then they just basically start feasting on the poor antelope. But it is definitely very it's part of nature, and I guess it depends on your preferences. But it is not for the faint-hearted to see a kill. There's two impressive elephants in picture over here. And you can see what an impact these large herbivores have on their environment. See, not really too much that grows in the immediate vicinity of a waterhole. Elephants, they tend to hang around waterholes, as I mentioned earlier on in the show. They're very water dependent. And there's even some suggestions that they have actually evolved. They were at one stage very dependent, or they lived in water. They evolved to become more terrestrial, more land dwelling, because of the way that their kidneys and that have formed. The elephant just to the left is having a little leg scratch, getting rid of those ticks or annoying parasites that tend to get in between the wrinkles of the elephant. Sometimes it looks like the elephants are bored. They're just sort of playing around with the mud, playing with the water, not really sure what to do. I guess they're also just conserving their energy. But as I was mentioning earlier, a lot of the vegetation gets trampled around the waterhole. Lots of large herbivores like your elephant, buffalo, rhino, and lots of antelopes that end up trampling the vegetation around the waterhole, which makes it difficult for certain plants and grasses to establish themselves. So typically around the waterhole you get very unpalatable grasses that are very resilient but not very nutritious. And so also the trees tend to be pushed over by elephants when they're close to the waterhole, especially in very dry periods. Elephants will utilize different parts of the tree, push a tree over, utilize the roots, or strip the tree of its bark, or maybe try and get to the shoots of the tree by pushing it over. And so that's why you see that the immediate vicinity around the waterhole is quite naked. Naked of vegetation. So elephant herds, they typically have a social structure known as a matriarchy. So where you have the oldest female, generally it's the oldest female, that will lead, will make the decisions for the rest of the herd, lead them to the best feeding areas or the best water holes. And so I guess it's almost like one person ruling a whole group of people. So you could almost refer to it as like a dictatorship or despotism. And so this is quite different to the social structure of the buffalo herd, for example, where they make a more democratic decision. So they all decide on which way the herd will move next. In the case of the buffalo, they communicate their intentions by standing still and upright and facing the direction in which they want to go next. And so it becomes a kind of group vote, and they use the average of the different directions that the buffalo are facing. And so they will then go in the average direction, so they pick the middle point of all the directions that the buffalo have decided on. And it's normally the older cows that will make those sorts of decisions. But it's a bit more democratic than in the elephant matriarchy, for example. Okay, so it looks like the party is starting to pick up steam again. We've got some plain zebra in picture over here. It's just quite fascinating how one moment it's quiet and the next you have, looks like 4 different species over here. You've got the fringe-eared oryx in the background, the zebra, giraffe, elephant. So Ruan Kroch 8802 is asking, how do you know if it is a male or female elephant? So if you look at this profile of the elephant to the right, you'll see that the forehead is quite rounded and not very angular. So with males, you typically have as they get older, you can see that they've got a more rounded forehead, and females have a bit more of an angular forehead. So that's one way of telling the difference. The other is the size. So elephant bulls end up getting much larger than cows, and yeah, so they get much taller and quite significantly taller and larger than the females. And then the tusks, in the males, the tusks get much larger and thicker than in the females. And this is, of course, for defense, and then also because males fight more for mating rights with females to establish dominance. So they need to have bigger, thicker horns. And it's also a way of intimidating the potential contenders or competitors. And then also, if you look at who the elephant is traveling with, so typically the females will be in a matriarchal herd, and your males will be in these small bachelor groups where it's maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 5 males that are banded together, and they just help each other look out for danger, and they sort of tolerate one another until the time comes that they have to mate, and then they might ditch one another, or they might fight to establish dominance for mating rights. So also, if you look at the size of an elephant, I mean, males can get up to or over 6,000 kilograms, 6 tons, and females, they typically only weigh up to 3.5 tons. So quite a significant size difference over there, or weight difference. Very characteristic sound of the African savanna, that sound of the zebra in the background there. So I've got a question here from Janice asking, how do elephants sleep? So elephants, they can sleep standing up or lying down. So I've seen both. So elephants, they can sometimes, especially the larger elephants, they tend to, if they're very big, it's more difficult for them to stand up after they've laid down. So they tend to lean against a tree, or they might lean against a termite mound to prop themselves up while they're sleeping. And typically elephants sleep for only about 2 hours a day, whereas which is quite a contrast to lions, where lions typically sleep for about 18 hours, or they can sleep for up to 18 hours in a day. And so basically you could say that when the elephant is up and active, the lions are sleeping, and vice versa.
Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
We are following the story of 32 rhinos that are making their way to their new home at Mabula Private Game Reserve.
The Explorer Chat is a magnificent way to make new friends who share your interest in nature. As an explorer, you'll also get your very own dashboard and personalized profile, plus the ability to save and share your favorite wildlife incidents with our brand new Safari Screenshots feature. Share sightings, swap stories, and experience nature together with people who feel the same pull to the wild as you do. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together. We know that adverts pay our bills, but you don't necessarily like them. So, this is a fantastic way to stop being interrupted. Sign up today and you'll get instant access to wildlife. 24/7, ad-free, live and on demand. No pesky commercials, no rude interruptions, just wild Africa exactly as it unfolds. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
So today marks 1 year since I first was on the show. So I was actually exactly a year ago, on the 12th of July last year. It was my first time on the show. So it's quite a special occasion. And it also today marks the 3-year anniversary of my dad's death. So yeah, big ups to you, Dad. I hope you're proud of me, looking down at me from heaven. And yeah, so grateful for everything that he's taught me to be where I am today. These elephants are very tolerant now of all the zebra and the yearlouts over here. I might have spoken too soon. So zebra often look like they're very full. They eat very well, but the fact of the matter is that they always look so bloated. Oh, there's a little bit of excitement happening now. I'd love to know what's going on in the minds of those elephant over there. What their intentions are. So the reason they look so bloated is because of the way they digest their food. They require lots of specialized bacteria which helps them break down and digest their food. As they are not very efficient digesters, you could put it that way, much like elephants. So they rely on a process called hindgut fermentation. So they ferment their food. They use these bacteria and microorganisms to help break down their food, and these microorganisms, they create a lot of gas as a byproduct of helping them digest this food, and so that's what gives them this bloated appearance. That's why they always look so bloated. And so a way of actually telling whether a zebra is in a good condition or not is by looking at the hair on the back of their neck. So if you see that hair is standing upright, then that means the zebra is in a good condition. But if it's wilting, you see it lying to its side, the hair on the back of the neck, then you know that there's perhaps something wrong. The zebra is sick or has maybe lost condition for some reason. So definitely the focus today has been on Old Donyo Lodge in Kenya. It's been a very special day of sightings over here. Lots of activity, lots of interspecies interactions. Also got to see some really nice pictures of ostriches. Just like that, it all changes again. It's just the three lads left at the pub, just having their last drink, celebrating the Springboks win. quite interesting how they're using tactile sort of gestures to communicate to one another, just touching each other. Guess we'll never know what they're saying to one another exactly, but thank you so much for having me on the show today. It has been a great pleasure, and I'm glad I could answer some of your questions and comment on your comments. And I wish you all a wonderful week ahead, and thank you. Lots of love, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday.